Aho, bindige gizik, kiwita kumikonan indiznikaz. Waswaganing and Dunjaba. Magizi Totem. My name is Nick Hockings. I'm from the Lac de Flambeau Indian Reservation. I'm an Ojibwe. And my clan is the Eagle. And we're going to be sharing with you a couple of stories today, and we're going to be sharing with you also some dances. But before we do that, before we start the sharing of dances and the stories, I want my wife to introduce herself.
Bonjour. Can you all say bonjour? You just said hello in Ojibwe. And if you say Niji, that means friend. So you turn to your friend and you say, bonjour Niji. Right. My name is Oja Washku Gijiguk Kiwita Kamiguk Indigenous Kaz, Waswaganing in Dunjaba, and Midodum is the Wabajeshi. And I am also from Lac du Flambeau. My Indian name is the Blue Sky Lady, she who circles around the Earth Woman. And I have a totem, you know the totem pole? It has spirits of animals on it, or birds or fish. My spirit is the Martin clan. And that's because somewhere in my past, way back, my grandparents, way back in their grandparents, I have an Indian grandmother or grandfather. And I just want to tell you, as we told everybody at the barn yesterday, that you all have an Indian name. And it's just waiting to be given to you. And it would be a spirit of nature that is protecting you. And I'm really fortunate because all of the spirits in the air, on the ground, in the ground, and circling the earth protect me. That's what my name means. And it's a very special name. And we were just told this year that because we're Baha'is, that is what the Baha'i spirit is. All the spirits in the earth, on the earth, around the earth, under the earth, over the earth, and circling the earth are all protecting Baha'is. It's really exciting to know that. So you have part of that name also, just being Baha'i. And we're really glad to be here today, and we're going to have you participate with us today. But first of all, we want to tell you some things. So my husband Nick will tell you about his outfit.
Some of the youngsters had asked me a name, and it's like my wife had mentioned, except one thing, that in different tribes, this is with the Ojibwe, and in different tribes it could be different. But one of the things that a person has to do that's almost mandatory is offer tobacco to an elder and ask that way. And quite often it'll take a while before you're given a name. And one other thing, the reason why my wife is Wabajeshi is because, and Wabajeshi is a Martin, because she does not know what clan or what tribe her parents were from. And if you have Indian blood, and this may be only with the Ojibways, I can't be certain about what the Lakota or any of the other tribes do, but you automatically become in the warrior clan. That's the Martin clan. My name, Bindige Gijik. It's very hard to translate names into English. My name, Bindige Gijik, literally translated means Bindige is enter and Gijik is a sky. But I was told with giving that name that when the Creator made the world, wherever you're standing, when He made the universes, wherever you're standing, if you look up, straight up, the sky is in the shape of a dome, and He left a hole in this dome when He first created it, and He sent spirits through, and that's where the name Bindige comes from, Bindige. And Gijik is the sky. Giwita Kumikonan. Giwita means circling around. Giwita Kumikonan means circling around the earth. So these names, like the name Charlotte, my wife, has gotten, and my name, we waited a year for these names, and these names have to be dreamed. And in our case, we had to go through a feast ceremony, and it's quite involved. So it's very important, these Indian names that we receive. So if you are looking, it's like we were told, every one of us has a name, and that name is out there, and it's attached to something on the earth or in the sky. It has to do with nature. It may be a rock, it may be an animal or flowers, or maybe a condition of the day. But there is a spirit in everything, and these names are dreamed. We each have that name, and we have that dream, someone who has that connection with that spirit world to get these names for us. They're very powerful. One of the things that I always ask the groups when I first start talking is I always ask, how many of you have been to a powwow before? So this is really exceptional, because most of the groups that I talk to, I may get 4 or 5 hands in a group this size, people. So this is very good to have all your children involved in powwows and know. And did you know that when you're in these powwows that you can dance? They have what's called the intertribal songs and intertribal dances. And once you go to these powwows, it's acceptable to get out and to dance. And the one thing that I want to talk about is this medicine wheel. And this will explain, I hope it'll explain to some of you youngsters. I hope I can even explain it to some of you old-timers back there. But this medicine wheel carries many, many teachings with it. And one of the teachings that I want to share is a prophecy with some of the Indian tribes. And it talks about how we're going to get together and why we should get together. And in that we'll tell you why it's acceptable at these intertribal songs and intertribal dances, why it's acceptable for all races to get out and dance. Because these powwows are not held for the Indians only, they're held for all the peoples. The story that I want to tell you begins a long time ago. Many, many thousands of years ago, when all the peoples were gathered together on this Turtle Island, as we call it. And the Great Spirit, he came down, and he says he was very happy. He was very proud of the way his people were living in balance. He was very happy the way they got along with each other. And so he said he wanted to give them a gift, more of a gift. He says, I want to give you something called the original teachings. And so to all the people he talked, he gave them the teachings of love, honor, respect, humility, truth. Very basic, very simple teachings. And he told the people how to go about fulfilling each one of these original teachings. And he says, what I'm going to do, he says, I'm going to separate you into 4 groups. He says, I'm going to send you to populate the rest of this Aki, the rest of this land. And so he took one group over here and he says, I'm going to send you in the direction of Wabanung. I am going to send you in the eastern direction. And this group of people will be known in a future time as the Red Race. You will be known as the Anishinaabe. You will be known as the people that live on this Mother Earth. Your name will be the Indian, the Red Race. And to this group here, he sent to the southern direction of Jawanung. And he says, over a period of time, you will become known as the yellow race. And this group here, he sent to the western direction of Ningobianong. And he says, over a period of time, you will be known as the black race. And this group here, he sent to the northern direction, Giwe Dinung. And he says, over a period of time, you will be known as the black race. But one last thing that I want to give you before you leave, I want to give you a guardianship. Which one of you youngsters know what a guardianship is? Well, a guardianship is when you're asked to take care of something. The Great Spirit Kichimanadu, he told the 4 different groups, he says, you will each have a different guardianship. And to this group that are going to be known as the Indian, as the red race, this group that has traveled to Wabanung, you will have the guardianship of the earth. And you will learn about the foods and about the medicines of the earth. And to this group that was known as the yellow race, that went in the direction of Jawanung, you will have the guardianship. You will have the guardianship of the wind and of the sky, of the air. And to this group that went in the direction of Ningobianong, he says, you will have the guardianship of the water. And to this final group that went to the northern direction, Giwedinong, you will have the guardianship of the fire. And so he took the groups all disbanded. But just before they left, the Great Spirit says, you've lived wonderfully on this planet, and I'm very proud of you. And I've given you these new teachings, these new original teachings, and I've given each group a guardianship. And he says, before you leave, please remember these original teachings. And so they went in their respective directions. And the Indian race, the race that lives here on this Mother Earth, this land, this Turtle Island, in the direction of Wabanung, they learned and maintained the guardianship of the earth. Because if you go into a store now, and if you look at the food shelf, on the shelves, the food, 75 to 80% of these foods were grown here in the Americas, long before the brothers and sisters came back. So the elders say that our people kept their guardianship. And to the race that went to Jawanung, the people that went in the southern direction, who became known as the yellow race, our elders say that they had, who had the guardianship of the wind and the air, that because even their artwork reflects the airiness and the spaciousness and the gardens that they have, and the martial arts that they've perfected, the yoga, the taekwondo, the tai chi. I myself have studied a martial art, so I understand that a lot has to do with breathing. A lot has to do with the air we take in. And so the elders say that the yellow race has kept their guardianship. And so this group that went in the western direction of Ningobianong, and after the years they had the guardianship of the water, the elders say it's the black race now that developed the blood plasma, the water that flows in our veins, and how many thousands and thousands of lives are saved each year. And our elders tell us the black race has kept their guardianship. They produced that man that developed that most sacred liquid. And finally, to the white race, a group of people that went in the northern direction of Ningombianong. I was speaking in a classroom in Lac de Flambeau to a group of young Indian boys and girls. Because we're on a reservation, obviously the majority of the kids there are Indian. But there were 3 non-Indians that sat in the back of the class. Just happened to be where they wanted to be seated, I guess. But I come to this, and I was talking about these guardianships of these races of people. And I raised this medicine wheel up and said, this is what this represents, the 4 races. Of the Indian, of the black race, the white race, and the yellow race. What race don't we need in here? And I showed these young kids, what race don't we need? And the little girl in the back row, little white girl, raised her hand. She says, you don't need the white. No, that's wrong. We need all races of people together. Because our elders tell us that it's the white race. And you look at that light bulb. The center of that light bulb is fire. The center of these automobiles that go on the road, the ones that we use to travel to get here, to come together, the center of that is fire. The center of a train, the center of a plane is fire. We need all of the races together, and we need it to all learn the guardianship. And our elders tell us that the people did. The people have all kept their guardianship. But the one thing that the Great Spirit mentioned to us before he sent us out, he said, when you come back together, and when you bring back these guardianships and all the things that each one of the races have learned about, when we come back together and when we share these among each other, this is going to be a beautiful, beautiful land we live on. But what's happened? When we pick up the paper or we turn on the television set, or turn on the radio set, what do we hear? We hear a lot of wars. We hear about people getting hurt, people hurting each other. And this is not the paradise that the Great Spirit had promised when we come back together to share these guardianships. When the 4 races would come back together, when this symbol that the Anishinaabe have carried around for thousands of years, it's not been fulfilled yet. And why is that? It's because our elders tell us that all races have forgotten. All races have forgotten, not the guardianship. We've learned about the earth. We've learned about the wind. We've learned about the sky. We've learned about fire. And we've learned about water. But one thing we all forgot. We've forgotten how to respect one another. We've forgotten how to love one another. We've forgotten how to be humble. We've forgotten how to be honest, many of us. So now is the time, and it's only been since the year 1844 that we have finally had the means of connecting with the rest of the people living on this planet. It's only been since then that we've gotten knowledge that we need again to bring the peoples back together again. Many of you scholars know what happened in 1844. That's right, the Baha'i faith came into being. Now we know this as Baha'is. We know now is the time. And we have the means now. We have the technology to send our word around this planet. We have the means of connecting with everyone. We have the means. Now we have the words. We have the writing. We know now what we have to do to share with one another. Love, respect, and honor. We know now what that's all about. So now, in a very short time, we can all come together like we are here. Not come together physically, but coming together spiritually in our hearts with love and respect for one another. So that's the story of the medicine wheel. That's the story, one of the stories that the Ojibwe have while we are all here again, back together, sharing with one another. This is one of the reasons why we believe in our culture, why it's so important for us to dance. Because in our culture, when we come together, everyone dances. Kind of like what happened last night with the young Persian lady dancing. But because our culture is the way it is, because we don't have, for thousands of years, we never had the written word. But the way the Anishinaabe had to teach was by actually showing and getting involved in telling. And so when we held our dances, and we hold our dances now, the grandmothers dance with the small Abanuji, the young girls and the young boys, they dance with the grandmothers, and everyone else in between. Because then they learn, then the youngsters learn. And today, in a couple minutes, I'm going to show you some dance, some social dance. And hopefully we're going to begin to dance with one another. You're going to learn how to do powwow steps. You're going to learn how to do friendship dance. You're going to learn how to do an Indian two-step. And most of all, we're going to show you a dance that's called, in some respects, it's called the dance of life. Now, I told you that many of you can dance at powwow and intertribal, but the snake dance will be one dance that 98% of you will never be able to do at a powwow. Because the only people that get involved with that are the people that are wearing their outfits. And we Indians, like yourself, only wear our costumes one time a year. We wear our costumes on Halloween, just like you do. The rest of the time, we wear outfits, or we wear our regalia. So I know some of you have mentioned about my costume. We do not consider these costumes, but outfits. And sometimes, to me, I know because I'm around talking with many people that don't understand. But sometimes at powwows, it's good to know, not to refer when you're talking to an elder or something about their costume that they're wearing. Because maybe he does wear a costume on Halloween sometime one night a year, but for the most part, it's regalia. Yes. We wear this, our outfit. Young lady asked us if we wore these a lot. We only wear these when we go out, when we're sharing the culture, or when we're having ceremonies at home. That's the only time that they're worn. If we don't have any more questions, what I want us to do is explain the snake dance. The snake dance is called the dance of life because it's a very long dance. And there's 5 parts to it, to this dance. But it's to follow the leader. How many of you know how to follow the leader? Good. Okay. Follow the leader means what? the leader. Well, that's the way the snake dance is going to be. But it's very important that you stay right behind the person in front of you. Because if you look at a snake, when a snake is crawling, half of his body is not over here, and half of it is not over here. It all comes together, right? Where his head goes, so goes the rest of that body. Well, the snake dance is a dance that has 5 specific parts to it. The first part, like the snake, when a snake winds around through life. How many of you have seen a snake crawling like this through the grass? Okay? But that represents our highs and lows, times that we have in life, the ups and downs that we have. We come to another part of the dance. It's called the shedding of the skin. How many of you know that a snake sheds its skin? Well, in the Ojibwe culture, and the meaning that I have for the dance that was explained to me this way, is that man sheds his old negative ways of life, and with that new, like the snake shedding his old way of life, you begin to take on a new life, a good life, a happy life. We then come to another part of the dance that involves the coiling up. Snakes, when they get ready to sleep for the winter, they form they call snake balls. Well, this part of the dance, we'll coil up. And then, at that time, this dance, the way it's interpreted, says that man has died. Animals hibernate. Some of the snakes spend the winter all coiled up. And the squirrels, some of the chipmunks, they hibernate like death. From there we'll unwind. And we'll go into another part, because after we coil up tight, that is our death. That is our passing on into the spirit world. And so we move out of that, and we go into another part of the dance again, when we're in the spirit world. And then as we travel around in the spirit world, it'll come to a time when we come up to what's called a river, and the snake has to cross over to get into the other side. And what this represents is the Indians traveling 4 days in the western direction of Ningobianam. It takes 4 days to get there. So what we do is this snake has to break up in sections, and we dance up to the river 4 times, and then cross over. And then we form a big circle out there. Somewhere, maybe in here, or maybe by that time we'll be outside somewhere. And then we all come together in this circle, and that's the last fifth and final part when we come together and we celebrate with all our relatives. We found that all the relatives and all the people that we have gone on before us have also gotten into the spirit world. And so what we want to do with you now is we want to share with you this snake dance. So if you could all stand up and stretch your legs when we get started. We want you to fall in the snake dance. They used to get a ski boat.
Why? You have fun? You have to turn the cold on.